Today's episode, I'm going to talk about something we received so many calls about in our Team Clark Consumer Action Center. Timeshares. Also, same story, different day. Can you say that? More issues come up constantly in my reading with VRBO and Airbnb. So, timeshares stink. And I've said this for 40 years in broadcast and now here on podcast and our YouTube show. Timeshares are something that are defective by their very design. Because no matter how much you love your timeshare, when you buy it or for years to come, when you don't want it anymore, it sticks to you like glue. And no matter what you paid for it, it has basically no market value. And that's why to exit a timeshare, you have to pay somebody to take it over almost always. And it's almost impossible, even in the most perfect situation, to not lose tons of money when you sell a timeshare. So enough people have heard that the word timeshare has become a damaged word, a damaged term. And so the industry wants to come up with new ways, and they'll use different terms like interval ownership or whatever. But the latest is the opposite of improvement. The latest is actually, believe it or not, worse than timeshares. Yep, the industry managed to come up with a way to make it worse. What do they call the new stuff? And actually, it's not new because I'll tell you a story in a second. But they're calling them vacation clubs. And so the idea of a vacation club is you don't own anything. You're just paying for the right to be able to take vacations whenever you wish, so many days a year for free, or the rest of the year at greatly reduced prices. And I remember I was new as a TV reporter in the early 90s. And there were all these people getting ripped off by a very early attempt at this whole vacation club thing. And people were paying $20,000 approximately to buy the right to have these free vacations. And then they were never available. You could never take one. And so I go there and I do one of those typical TV confrontation things. I show up with my photographer and my microphone and the lights blazing at the sales center for this. And it was really funny because the waiting room was full of people that were buying this. And seeing me there generated a lot of buzz in the waiting room. And I asked to speak to, I knew who the principal was from not online research then. Forgot how we did it, the library or whatever. We found principal, I asked for the person. And I'm waiting. And so I start interviewing people in the lobby. And next thing I know, there's 2 police officers there to arrest me for trespassing. And ultimately ended up not being arrested, and that company ended up vanishing in the night, and one of the principals did spend some time in jail. But that was early. Now you got big players doing these vacation clubs. And the New York Times recently did a story about person after person who had bought Vacation Club by Hyatt and spent $50,000, inflation, right? Because in the 90s it was 20, now with that organization, 50,000. And person after person ended up in 40-year contracts, 40-year contracts, and were unable, allegedly, to be able to use any of the benefits. Because remember, at least with a timeshare, you have your designated week, and you can use your week year after year. It may not be a good deal, but you have your week. With these vacation clubs, it's just an empty promise that you'll be able to take a vacation that, as people allege with the Hyatt one, you can't ever do. So know that this is something that sounds exciting, especially in winter when is peak selling season for these things. Don't fall for it. Timeshare by any other name is still a rotten, terrible deal. What should you do? Find the best deal on a vacation when you want to take one. Coming ahead, I want to talk about what you need to be aware of, not to put the kibosh on these sites, but to be aware. So, wow. Day after day after day, the stories that come up about renting principally from Airbnb and VRBO, and occasionally there will be one for a minor booking site called Vacatia, however you say it. Here's the problem. These platforms make available, they're basically giant listing services. And you think about their design from the ground up, it's very libertarian. They're making it possible for you, wherever you are in the world, to list a room in your place, an apartment, whatever it is, a villa, a farmhouse, a tree house, you name it, that you can list it for rent and be connected to customers all over the globe. It's incredible, and it's fantastic. The problem comes when something goes wrong, and you can have real diffusion of responsibility, where you've got often with a VRBO or Airbnb, you have an owner of a property, you have a management company that manages that property for that owner. They may contract out cleaning and all the rest. I've experienced before with using these rental platforms where a place will be just as represented. It'll be fantastic. I'm thrilled to be there. And then other times, it doesn't look anything like the pictures. And it could be really dirty. And there's one that my family still talks about that we were in. This is going to sound so overprivileged. We were on a family trip to Hawaii. And we had rented, in this case, it was a VRBO. And it was filthy. Filthy. And so it was a absentee owner from California, a management company in Maui. And so called the management company, and all I got was a voicemail. And we cleaned the place ourselves. I mean, come on. We were paying real money. I put in a complaint with VRBO, heard nothing. That was just one experience. Because others I've had have been great. It's so random, though. So with the service guarantees not being specific, time is your friend or your enemy. You need to immediately, when you arrive at a place and things are not okay, take pictures. You need to contact the platform you booked on, Airbnb or VRBO. You need to contact the management company, or if it's being managed by the owner immediately. And be very clear what it is you want. If in your opinion, let's say there's mold throughout the place, you need to talk about a relocation, the platforms tend to say, well, we need the owner of the property to say they'll release you from your obligation. The one thing, if a place is uninhabitable, you need to have one goal, and that is that you want an alternate location, and you cannot stay there. It is not safe for you to stay there. Usually that'll be a health thing. In our case, where the property was just filthy, and we're capable of cleaning ourselves. We did. We shouldn't have had to, but we did, and we enjoyed our week there. But everything you do needs to be documented, needs to be done early. And there's an old thing called you ate the evidence in business and hospitality. If you stay, if you complain but you stay, it's looked at as you gave up your rights. So right away, you need to document, complain every possible way, be realistic what you want, and reinforce that when people are not responding in a meaningful way as quickly as you can. Know that if you abandon a property and you go stay somewhere else, you may get stuck with the bill from the first place and the bill for the second place. And that, to me, is one of the core problems with Airbnb and VRBO. That's why the persistent ones may get satisfaction. If you're not persistent, you may be just stuck. Krista, you and I have argued about this for 15 years, because you use Airbnb specifically. You use it routinely for your travel.
I do like it. But with caution. I use it with caution.
How many times have you had an experience like we had with a place being filthy?
I never have.
Wow.
I've been really lucky, I guess. But have
you ever ended up at a place that was not as represented?
No. But I will only stay in a place that a lot of people have stayed in. There are lots of reviews. I really prefer the hosts that have the special designation. I get really nervous about it, understandably. So I don't know that we argue. We're probably really thinking the same thing. It's just, I also sympathize with Airbnb trying to figure out if I were owning that business, how would I possibly police all this? It's just much harder than managing a hotel chain, I believe. It's different when it's a marketplace. All marketplaces face that.
Right.
So,
and they do, both Airbnb and VRBO say we're not a hotel chain.
Right.
That we are different. We're a booking platform, and you have to remember that.